Okay, so today we're diving into a pretty complex issue, poverty in Papua New Guinea.
Right.
And we've got some fascinating research here,
Yeah.
really focusing on how making some strategic improvements in education could make a huge difference.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing how these sources just directly connect certain educational investments
Uh-huh.
with actually reducing poverty in this very specific place.
Yeah.
It's not just a theory. It's
Right.
like super practical stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with something pretty basic,
Right.
just getting to school in the first place.
Right.
The research points out that over 80% of people live in these rural and isolated areas.
Yeah.
So just physically getting to a school is a huge barrier for a lot of kids.
Exactly. And the solutions they're talking about, building schools right in the communities and supporting these mobile teaching programs, that's really smart because it uses what's already there,
Yeah.
those existing community structures. So it could actually help people feel more ownership and make it more sustainable in the long run.
Right, like they're invested in it.
Exactly. But you got to make sure the community is on board from the beginning.
For sure, for sure. So okay, say we've got a school.
Okay.
Now we need qualified teachers to actually teach in them.
Yeah, and the material's really highlighting this big shortage of teachers.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty big problem.
Totally. So, yeah, investing in these strong teacher training programs, that's essential.
Mm-hmm.
But just as important is keeping those skilled teachers around.
Especially in those tougher areas to work in.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of offering better pay or even housing comes in.
Right, like giving them some real incentive to stay.
Exactly. It makes you think about how do you make sure all that training actually turns into good quality teaching?
Yeah. How do you get those teachers to the kids who need them the most?
Yeah, it seems like these incentives are a big part of that.
Yeah, definitely. And we all know how important a good teacher is for how much a kid actually learns. And like the research says, that directly connects to their chances of doing well economically later on.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little and talk about the financial side of all this.
Okay.
We know that just the cost of education can be a huge roadblock for a lot of families.
Yeah, those financial burdens like fees, uniforms, supplies,
It all adds up.
a lot. And they talk about maybe subsidizing those costs or even making primary school totally free.
Which would be amazing.
It would be huge. And what's really powerful is thinking about how taking away those immediate money worries could let families actually prioritize education.
Right.
Maybe break that cycle of having to rely on their kids working just to survive.
Right, that changes everything.
It really does.
Yeah, so there's another really interesting point in here about incorporating local languages and culture
Oh, yeah?
into education, which is especially interesting in Papua New Guinea with something like 800 different languages.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's a challenge, but it's also a really unique strength.
Yeah, for sure. So teaching in those local languages, especially when kids are young,
Right.
it's not just about understanding what's being taught.
Yeah.
It's about getting them excited to learn and making it relevant to their life. And it builds this sense of pride in their culture.
It makes them feel seen.
Exactly. And that can really boost attendance and how connected they feel to school.
Right, it makes sense. The more a kid feels like their heritage is valued,
Totally.
the more they'll buy into learning.
Exactly.
So one last thing, the sources touch on focusing on practical skills
Oh, right.
alongside those traditional academic subjects.
Yeah. That focus on vocational training stuff, like farming techniques,
Right.
basic mechanics, entrepreneurship.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
key because it gives them a direct route to making money and being self-sufficient.
It's not just theoretical knowledge. It's like
Exactly.
how to actually do things.
It's applicable, and when you connect that back to reducing poverty, it's huge.
Yeah, because those are skills they can actually use
Exactly.
to participate in the local economy.
Exactly.
So putting all of this together, it seems like the best way to use education to fight poverty in Papua New Guinea is to take this multi-pronged approach.
Yeah.
We need to make schools accessible in those remote areas.
Yeah.
We need to make sure there are enough good teachers who are supported and actually want to stay in those areas.
Right.
We've got to make education affordable for everyone.
Yeah.
Bring in local languages and culture and teach these practical job skills.
Yeah, I mean, if you address all those things together,
Yeah.
it can really build this strong foundation for positive change that lasts.
That's a great point. So it makes you think about the power of these solutions that are really tailored to a specific place.
Yeah.
So what other changes could we make that might seem small but are actually super important because they're sensitive to the local culture?
Exactly.
In other parts of the world. in communities facing their own unique challenges.
It's about going beyond just generic solutions.
Yeah.
And really understanding what that community specifically needs and what strengths it already has.
And how to use those strengths to create real change.
Exactly.
Fascinating stuff as always.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for diving in with me today.
My pleasure.